Witches, rise up, return to your power. Witches, rise up, now is the hour. Witches, rise up, step up to your throne. Witches, rise up, it's time to come home. Witches, rise up, return to your power. Witches, rise up, now is the hour. Witches, rise up, step up to your throne. Witches, rise up, it's time to come home. We are the witches, we have returned. 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 The age of witches here now. 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 Witches, rise up, return to your power. Witches, rise up, now is the hour. Witches, rise up, step up to your throne. Witches, rise up, it's time to come home. Witches, rise up, return to your power. Witches, rise up, now is the hour. Witches, rise up, step up to your throne. Witches, rise up, it's time to come home. Welcome everyone to the Witches Rise Up Global Online Summit, calling you witch to rise up and return to your power, because the age of witch is here. And I'm your host, Emer Stassen, and I'm really delighted to welcome today's expert speaker, Kadidja+Yansane+. Hi, Kadidja.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Emer.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for saying yes. So I'll say a bit about you, Kadidja. You are the founder of bloomintoyou.com and the creator of the signature program, The Client Creation Queen, 8 weeks to get clients, get paid, and live your sacred calling. Love that. Kadidja has coached and consulted with dozens of Fortune 500 companies like Visa, Charles Schwab, Clorox, and Robert Half, and more. She's been trained by and worked directly with top 7-figure leaders in the coaching industry. Over the past decade, she's coached and trained hundreds of her clients do things like get their first 10K month. Oh yes, please. Get their first. I can't help doing the side comments, you know. Get their first and next paying clients, create and develop their profitable niche, lead their first workshops, start and grow their own communities online and offline, charge more for their services, package their offerings for high profits, position themselves as experts in their respective field. Additionally, she's facilitated and led hundreds of workshops, events, programs, and classes, both online and offline, in the areas of personal growth and business development. Kadidja was a women's study major at UC Berkeley and is a certified coach. Her life and passion has been devoted to empowering women to their own value, charge their worth, and do what they love. And last, but certainly not least, she is a proud mamapreneur to 2 children. Naima, is that right?
Naima, yes.
Naima, who's 7, and Khalil, who's 5.
Yeah.
With her partner, Mike. They live in the San Francisco Bay Area. And Kadidja, your title today, which has been singing through me all day, to be honest, is Reclaim Your Crown. So, could you share as a starting point what your journey has been to rising up and returning to your power?
Oh my God, I would love to share. And It's interesting, I feel like you have so much clarity with hindsight, but I did not start my business thinking I'm going to rise up and reclaim my power. And even though, I feel like obviously there must have been a deeper part that knew that, but I just thought that I wanted to do what I loved. I wanted to do something meaningful. And I really just, in my youth, was the type of person that struggled to keep a job, not because I couldn't do the work, but I just felt so confined and not fully self-expressed. And today I can say that my business has helped to grow me into the woman that I am, to grow me into the woman that I've always wanted to be. I didn't know that on the start side of it, yet I'm so grateful for it. And I often share with clients and members of my community that I view your entrepreneurship, your business is really a spiritual journey of reclaiming your power, reclaiming your gifts. And I say reclaim because those gifts are there all along. And, part of our journey of self-actualization is removing all the layers that people have put on us, like, oh, you're too nice, you're too pretty, you're too focused, you're too not serious. And then to come back to that place of like, no, of not having to take that on and just being myself. And so for me, there's so much to reclaim, or there has been so much to reclaim in terms of like finding my voice, like finding my opinions. This is how I want to express myself. Even just admitting I was a coach in the early days felt so difficult. I worried about, what other people were going to think, like, well, who do you think you are to do this? Oh, you're doing this now. And it's, I see this in my practice all the time. And to be able to rise to say, yes, you're allowed to change and grow. Maybe at one point you're a meat eater and now you're a vegetarian. It's okay to be a vegetarian. Or at one point you're a smoker and now you don't smoke anymore. Or you used to drink and you don't drink. Like, we're allowed to evolve. And part of that reclamation is giving yourself permission to evolve, to change and grow, and to begin to stand in that power, in that essence of who you are. And I absolutely 100% Emer believe that my business has been a vehicle for me to become fully self-expressed, because I was not fully self-expressed before starting my business. I was kind of still longing and still pining. And, Julia Cameron in The Artist Way, there's a term she uses called the shadow artist, right? And I think that I identified that way for a long time. And it feels so amazing to have like reclaimed my artistry, reclaimed my creativity, reclaimed all the things that I've always loved, and now be able to do it. I was going to say out loud, but it really isn't for anybody but myself. But I don't feel like it's something just here in secret and private in a notebook. And I think that a lot of people that I work with come to want to grow their business because they're like, all of my thoughts and ideas and plans are in this notebook, under the bed, and I'm ready to take them out of the notebook and share it with the world. So that was a mouthful. Not sure if I answered your question.
Oh, it's absolutely. There's so much richness there and nourishment. And as you're sharing that, how you help and support people bring forth what's in the notebook. I'm just having this like image of these words and creativity unleashed into the world, and it's so powerful. Yeah.
It is so powerful. And it's amazing. And I've shared this in, other talks or interviews, but like, I think that some people, they do things so naturally, they don't even really think about it. Maybe they're really great at cooking, or they're really good at taking pictures. And because it might be so familiar or natural to them, it can be hard to think that they can monetize it. And it doesn't mean that you have to monetize every gift or art that you have. But, people I work with, they want it to be their livelihood too. When things come natural to you or easy, or it feels like a joy, because we've been taught that we have to struggle and toil and, you just have to work, and we do have to make a living. And I think times are shifting and changing, thankfully, so that we want both. We want to be able to be fully self-expressed, and we want to feel that, like, and it's interesting because I'm on this summit where so many of women's skills have been taken for granted for so long. It's like, oh, as a woman, you're expected to listen. You shouldn't have to pay someone to, you're supposed to be the mother. You're supposed to listen. You're supposed to care. You're supposed to nurture. And that can also be a huge place of disempowerment and unsustainability for women. And to now be able to attempt to put some value to all of these skills that have been free for so long is an interesting place to be in history.
Yeah, it really feels like this tipping point on this spiritual path. Sure. That reclamation, and as you say, monetizing, if that's what people want, sure, the things that we do so naturally for free. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's so many layers to that, aren't there? That
so many layers.
Disrobe and remove the conditioning.
Exactly. And it's just like, I'm going like this to be like this energy exchange. And that energy exchange might not always be cash, It's interesting how, like, I feel like there's always been exchange. Now maybe we use cash or credit cards or other forms of currency, but it's like when you think about you've gone to someone's house and you brought them a little token of appreciation because they were having a party, and maybe you brought them some flowers. Like there's I feel like there's just this beautiful ritualistic way to honor what you're receiving in exchange. And money is one way as an entrepreneur, but of course it could be time and service. I know for a long time, there were so many women's circles or programs that I wanted to do, and financially it was challenging for me to participate. And I would always, if I couldn't do it, I would approach the person and say, hey, like, women sometimes really love to barter in exchange. And, I was bringing value to that person with time and help and support. And I was able to reap the benefits of what they were offering. So, like, receiving and giving, it's a dance. And I think part of reclaming our value, reclaiming our time, reclaiming our gifts, is just really honoring the energy that it takes to make a soup, to create a home, to write a book. Like there's an exchange that both parties get to benefit from.
Yeah, and I love that you've broadened it out beyond money. Money is one aspect of that, and there are so many different ways. And this is where creativity comes in, isn't it?
Absolutely.
That exchange feels good for both parties.
It has to, because if it doesn't, then resentment can come up, not feeling appreciated. And then sometimes it could impact how you give. I mean, it's kind of natural. It's like, you might have, I'm just thinking of, like, let's say dating, right? Like if you're always the person that's organizing the dates, or you're always the person that's reaching out, and potentially in the beginning, you might feel enthusiastic and excited. There's some hormones, there's some adrenaline. Then over time, it can feel imbalanced, and it can feel like you're giving and not getting. And that's something that I hear a lot from women. And that comes in many shapes and forms, whether it's in the home, whether it's in their business. They feel like they're giving a lot, but what they're receiving from their business, either in terms of money, in terms of engagement, it doesn't feel balanced. And then you kind of just start to feel like you're walking with one shoe, one high heel and not a shoe. And being able to learn how to receive is a huge thing. I think that's happening for a lot of people. Like, okay, well, I'm really good at giving. How can I let other people give to me in terms of support, in terms of financial help, in terms of appreciation? And it's interesting because I don't know why the whole women's circle keeps coming up for me, but I started my business leading women's circles, and most of the people that I work with have the desire to gather community. And oftentimes there'll be a conversation about exchange and charging, and if it should be free, if it should be donation, and somehow that does that ruin the sacredness of the container by bringing in money. And so I know I felt challenged by that. Initially, I was offering my groups for free, and it felt fine to do that in the beginning. And I still think it's a personal choice, because depending on your business model, like, you could offer your women's circles or whatever your offerings are free, but then also give yourself permission to make an offer. But I see that, and I definitely feel like it's untangling, but I don't know if you've witnessed that in your work of just being able to charge, and does that somehow ruin the sacred container of women gathering?
Yeah, oh, I totally get it. Totally get it. And it's how we view money as, in the past, I may have viewed money as like something dirty, or it's going to tarnish this, as you say, the sacredness of the container. And something that's emerged for me really over the last year. Last year's summit was around healing the witch wound. And then this, a program I launched after it, or a paid program, then organically merged into this Witches Well circle that is a free monthly circle where we meet. And it feels really sacred, because each sister or witch or whoever, whatever we want to call ourselves, will decide each month who's going to step into the center of the circle and share their craft. So it feels really nourishing and supported. And it feels right just now to offer that for free. And then there's the other paid stuff. So it very much is a dance, isn't it? A balancing act.
Yeah, and I love that you said that it feels right, because I feel like it should feel right. You know what I mean? That and that part of our growth is being able to identify and be discerning of, am I doing this because I'm afraid, or am I doing this because it feels like the right thing? And I feel like that in itself too is just like reclaiming your voice, like being able to stand in, like, no, this, I want it to be this price, or this is my offering, this is my gift. And that we're always moving with intention and mindfulness.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, and I wanted to then ask around the crown and how reclaiming your crown relates to rising up and returning to your power, if it does.
Well, it's interesting, I'm reminded of one of the first business cards I made. Oh my God, the first business card I made, and I didn't even know, I knew that I was a coach, but I didn't have a niche. This was years ago, Imar, and it said Queen Kadidja on it. And that felt so edgy for me to put that on a card, and I was scared to pass them out. Oh my God. So I must have been, I think this was in my 20s. And I made these cards, and I really liked these cards. And I remember showing my parents my card. And, I think my dad said something like, I can't put the word queen on, a card. It almost had this, even though I put it on the card and I printed them out, it felt like, who do you think you are to call yourself a queen? Like, are you saying that you are above other people or that you're extraordinarily special? Like all these things, right? And so that was not a card, Emer, that I passed out a lot. And so she was coming, right? So she was coming, she put it on the card, and then there was fear to put it out there. And so like you said earlier, my signature program today is called the Client Creation Queen program, but didn't start off. It was initially the Client Creation program. And I see, I even say all of this is because I think that the word queen, some people love the word queen, just like some people may love the word witch, or they might shrink at the word witch or
yes.
frown on it. And I think words goddess, queen, witch, like picking the word that resonates with you. But even though I loved it, there was still some discomfort there, like how dare you, right? And so one of the things that I think of when I use the word is like, I think that people have so many ideas about what it means. Does it mean, like I was saying earlier, that you're above other people? Does it mean that you think that you're better? And it doesn't mean any of those things, right? So I want to talk about the two words. So creation queen. And we've already been talking about the word creativity in this conversation. One of my favorite words is the word create. And I often, at least in my business, a lot of times people are saying, how do I get paying clients? And I love the reframe of how do I create clients? Because you start to see yourself as the one that's generating your life, the one that's generating your business, and not waiting for things to happen, but then also honoring that as a woman that you are a creatrix and that you created so many things in your life already. And with intention, with focus, if you identify with ritual, like you can charge your desires and intentions with your mind, with your energy and all of that. So that's the create part. And then for me, my take on the queen is her being in her leadership. And so a leader is someone that is willing to go first. A leader is someone that is going to step out and do what they're feeling called to do and not necessarily waiting for everyone to get on board for them to make that decision. So you being the leader in your own life, you stepping into your own autonomy, into your own sovereignty is being a queen. So for me, it's an invitation to rise into your power, like you're saying on this summit, and that might look completely different from the way my queen looks, completely different from the way Emar's queen look. It's I think an incredibly uniquely personal journey. And so part of the work that we do is like, if you can connect to who you see yourself being as a queen, like how would she respond to this situation? And if that's difficult for you, maybe there are figures from history, figures from your life, figures that you see that you feel like represent that energy that's willing to initiate and like priestess your work, priestess the desires that you have into being. And it doesn't mean that you already have to own that now, but there's a willingness to really begin to listen to your own yes. And so when I started my business, even though I had this desire, what I thought other people were thinking was more important. And it's not the case for me today, which I'm so like, it's so funny. Like lately I've been feeling like, I feel like I've arrived. And that when I say that, I don't mean like, oh, I've arrived to like my financial destination or of no problems. I feel like I've arrived inside of a place inside of myself where I'm led internally more. And that doesn't mean that I don't care or I'm not impacted by what happens outside of me, but I'm moving from an inner knowing where it felt more scary or more terrifying to do that at other times in my life.
Oh, it's just so wonderful to listen to you speak, and also the resonance of your words. It's just really, really magical. From you had me at Queen Kadidja and then creating clients. I love that. I love that. And how we are the creatrixes. Yes, of course we are.
We are.
Yeah.
And it's such a joy to you know, in a past incarnation, like I'm trained as a doula, and I was thinking about our interview earlier, and I was remembering this book. I think it was a birth book. It was called like Immaculate. I can't remember the name of the book right now. I wish I remembered, but I read it in college. We were learning about childbirth around the world, and we were learning about like the medicalization of childbirth. And I didn't have children then, but as I was reading about the way women were birthing naturally, and how, that shift into going into the hospitals and it being more of a medical event than something that a woman's body can do, not that you might not need medical interventions. But that really, that even just shaped how, like, when I read that material, I was like, oh, I definitely want to give birth at home someday. And I did have my daughter at home, but I brought that up for a reason, and it's escaping me now.
That we were talking about being the creatrix and creating your clients.
Yeah, it's gonna come. It's okay. I'm gonna trust that it's there, and I'm gonna be like, all right, Emer. But
being the doula
on the vein of, I feel like women are always doula-ing each other and doula-ing things that they want to give birth to in the world. And it's such a joy and pleasure for me to support women in bringing their magic, their medicine, whatever it looks like for them, because I do feel like there is still this wound of like, you're going to be burned at the stake, or something's bad's going to happen if you speak too much, if you talk too loud, if you do other than what mainstream society tells you you're supposed to do. And I think I definitely feel like that fear of something bad happening is definitely still alive for women that I work with.
Yes, absolutely. And I see that too in the work I do. And still it can be terror, real, this embodied feeling of terror and fear, and I'm going to be silenced if I say this, and how can I share these words that are in this notebook, and release them into the world, how can I do that? So yeah, I was going to ask you then, with how can women embody their queen archetype and wear that crown with pride, and really embody that?
Well, I think it's a few things, but the first thing that I want to say, it sounds really simple, but it's to begin to start to say yes to your desires, to the things that are nagging at you. And oftentimes, so it's like, I feel like I've built my business one yes at a time. Like, are you going to say yes to that? I'm going to say yes to, so at the time it was like, I'm going to say yes to saying that I'm a life coach, which is what I was calling myself at the time. I'm going to say yes to putting myself out there. I'm going to say yes to getting support and not feeling like I have to do it alone, because it is, like you said, it can be incredibly, it can be terrifying to put yourself out there for a number of reasons, right? And I don't think that we are designed or meant to do things alone. So being in circles like what you said you're doing once a month of other women, other sisters that you feel like are on the path, that gives you strength, that gives you courage. Like I literally, I was saying yes to one desire, I'm going to say yes to that, you know? And it doesn't mean you have to say yes to the scariest thing, but beginning to say yes to the things that light you up, to the things that you've always wanted to do. I literally, for the past 20 years, maybe more. So I'm 45 now, since 18, I've literally sat in circles of women since then. I don't know how many years that is, but that's over 25 years. So I've literally sat in circles of women for over 2 decades. I think there's something so special and so unique when you're around other women. You're able to mirror each other in a way and really see, like you can see her in a way that she can't see herself, and then she can't stay small for very long. And so if you feel like you're like, oh my God, you're really stuck inside yourself, being around other people, other women that on our similar journey or path, it's going to help to draw you out. And there's also a thing about moving from needing the permission to you giving yourself permission. I'm just going to give myself permission to do that. I'm not going to wait for someone to anoint me. I'm not going to wait for someone to say that I'm good enough or that I'm this enough to take the action. That like, I'm going to, like what I'm looking for from the outside, I'm going to begin to give myself that now. And then just simply asking the question, like, if I believe that I was a queen and that I get to have it the way that I wanted, like, what would I do now? Like, what would the queen version of me, like, I've literally had clients, like, you know, name that part of themselves. And I'll be like, so what would Venus say? What would Goddess Venus say to this? And they'll be like, well, you know, she would say this. And I'm like, wow, that sounds pretty brilliant to me. It's like we all have this inner queen, this inner coach, this inner guide that if we were willing to tap into and listen to, that could support us in taking, because sometimes the smaller scared version of ourselves can't see that, and we need to call on a higher part that can see a little bit beyond our limitations to help us in moving forward.
Yeah. And I love
sometimes
that.
we need props. And, you know, I'm going to show you a little prop, a little crown here that my coach gave me, right? You know, sometimes we need props.
I love it. I love it. And see, with the crown, you have to sit up straight, don't you?
Exactly.
To hold the crown.
Like, hold your head up high, right? So
I love it. I want one. I give myself permission to get my own crown.
Yes, sometimes we need props. You know, that's the first thing you do is like get into you know, it's interesting. I didn't even think about this, but I have a meditation. It's called the Client Creation Queen Meditation, which I'm happy to share. And one of the things we do in the meditation is to put on your queen's headpiece. And so it might not be a crown, it could be a hat, you know, maybe it's a feather piece. And I'm saying that because for every person, it's going to be completely different. You know, maybe it's a bird. I don't know. But it's like, you know, imagine putting that on your head. So in the meditation, we put it on our head, and then you're like, wait, do my shoes make me feel like I'm a crown? So just getting that feeling in your body just shifts things. Even myself, when I listen to it, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit different already.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And as you said earlier, it sounds simple, and actually it's so powerful.
Indeed.
You know, sometimes the simplest things can be the trickiest and the most powerful as well.
Exactly. And they can, you know, incite big shifts for sure.
Yeah. And also what was coming to mind was the way you are giving Queen a voice, or whatever we want, Queen, which whatever archetype we identify with, it's giving that part of ourself voice too, which is really powerful as well.
Absolutely. Giving her a voice, giving her a name. If you're a more visual person, maybe just having something in your environment that you feel like can represent that. It can be a daily reminder. People have all kinds of props, whether it's a stone that you carry, if you feel like it gives you some force, some power. Maybe it's a perfume. Again, it can be completely unique to you, but like when you think about you embodying your empowered queen, like what is she doing? How is she speaking? How is she holding herself? There's a version of you that's already there, and you can access her in the present.
I love it. Gorgeous. Yeah. And fun. Did I mention that already? Yeah, it's the fun. I like the fun that you're bringing to this as well. It's really, really important, because that's something when I connect to the witch archetype for myself. It's like they are these mischievous beings that are tickling me out. Like, come on, out you go, speak, share this.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like it turns the whole idea of what we associate with witches. It's like turns it all on its head,
It's so true. And if you just think about your version of the queen or witch, like how would fun not be a part of it? Like that doesn't sound like when you think of a queen, like, isn't she having a good time? Isn't she getting support? Isn't she asking, like, how can I make this downhill? Like, what would make this work better? And so constantly stepping into a state of solution and creativity. And I love the image that you just shared of like, little like mischief, like fun.
Yeah. And it's kind of, I feel like it's an initiation, another type of initiation, because when we say yes, as you talk about saying yes, one thing at a time, I feel like it's this co-creative journey with the universe, with the archetype of like, is she going to do it? Is she going to, she said yes, but is she going to do it? And, actualize that in the world. So it's always, it is like this initiation. And then another idea or thing comes that we say yes to. So
Absolutely.
One step at a time.
Well, it's interesting because I think that, how do I want to say that saying yes to what you want can feel expansive and feel like you're opening up. And then I think another part of the queen is being able to say no and have boundaries and say, like if you're really honest that no, I actually am not available for that, or that doesn't feel good. And maybe you're not, depending on where you're at in your journey, whether you can actually say those out loud or not, but at least being able to say that to yourself internally, like, I actually don't want to do that. Or I think I'm going to politely decline, or I'm going to say no. And so there's some power, there's a lot of power in having your yes be your yes, and you giving yourself permission to say yes, and then also your no be your no, and you giving yourself permission to say no.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm working on that with my daughter a lot.
I can imagine. That really is the age, isn't it?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And it's knowing as well what our no feels like, discerning what's a no, what's a yes. That for me is still a journey,
It sure is.
Yeah. I came from I worked in the corporate world for 20 years, and I was very much the yes girl, of like, I'll do all of this, I'll do everything. So knowing what the no is now is, it's a learning journey.
It's new territory.
Yes.
I know a lot of listeners can relate. I know I can relate, and just, part of, we say as a coach is that, okay, when you say no to something, whether it's to an event, like it's giving you space to say yes to something. And so maybe it's yes to more rest, yes to doing something else that you would prefer more. And, practicing in small doses, saying no, I know has been a huge learning edge for me. And it's a great place to practice. Like, your queen knows how to say no graciously. And sometimes not so gracious, and that's okay too.
Put the crown on and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you then, what's your relationship been with the word witch? Because you mentioned in the beginning, like the different relationships people may have with that word.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like it's definitely layered. When I call someone a witch, it's always a compliment, right? And I had a friend, and I'd be like, she was just so magical to me. She was an artist. She painted. She knew lots about herbs. She'd be like sending me energy if I wasn't feeling well. And I would say, oh my God, you're such a witch. And she'd be like, oh, thank you. Like, she loved it when I called her that, because she knew, like, when people use the word witch, it's not always endearing. If I call someone and I have thought, I have also thought like, oh, that person is a witch. And that wasn't a compliment, right? But so, my daughter, she was a witch. So she's 7 now, I think for her 3rd or 4th birthday. And I remember feeling really like, wow, where did she get that from? I'm really proud of her that she wants to be a witch. I think that's so cool. Like, I felt like that was a win as a parent, that she was a witch for Halloween. And I was looking through some recent pictures at my parents' house, and I was a witch. And I didn't remember that I was a witch for Halloween one time. And so, I don't know if I necessarily call myself witch, but I definitely use the term witchy woman, right? Do you know what I mean? And so it's interesting that we're even having this conversation, because I feel like in the process, I get to like untangle and be like, well, what is that about? But I feel like when I think of the word witch, I think of priestess. I think of a woman being connected to the earth, being connected to plants, being connected to other women. I think of being able to harness energy, like being intentional with energy. Like, I think of there's a drought in California, like, let's pray for the rain. Like, women are powerful, we can pray for the rain. I think of ritual. I think of gratitude. I think of lighting candles. I think of being in community. And I also remember, I remember in my 20s purchasing some books on witchcraft. I don't know where those books are right now. Maybe I still have them. So I feel like there's always been this connection. And I feel like when I'm in circles of women and that word is used, I enjoy it. And the only reason I'm hesitating, I'm just noticing how, like, oh, I don't necessarily use that word a lot necessarily in my copy, but I feel like it's around and I feel connected to it. And I feel like there's some like, okay, what else is there that I need to untangle?
Thank you so much, honestly, for your honesty and your realness in that, the word. And I love all you share, the connection to the earth and the ritual, the candles, and then that's something else that is there too. And I feel that I was being interviewed a while ago, maybe a few months ago, and for a podcast, and she introduced me as Emer the Irish witch. And there was something within me that went, Well, yeah, I'm not sure I would call myself that. However, yes, I'm talking about these witchy experiences, and I can settle into that. But yeah, it's like there's some edge there.
Like, like what's the story with the girl and the pea, and she's got the little pea under the mattress. But when you said that title, The Irish Witch, I was like, ooh, like there's also that, like you feel that spark. Yeah. When you think witch, it's like, ooh, magic powers. And then I feel like the lesson too is that we all have magic powers. And like, are we how connected are we, or are you, to your knowing of your magical powers, and how you can nurture and cultivate that more. So I feel kind of excited, and there's like a little turn on as we're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel that the experience I've had, it's like with the collective of the witches, that's what they are wanting from us, to really connect with these magical powers that we have within us, and to rise up, return to our power, reclaim our yes in whatever way, and call ourselves what feels right for each one of us.
So good.
Yeah. Oh, gorgeous. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share about reclaiming your crown? And then you can share about your gift as well, your free gift for viewers.
Well, I just want to remind you, because I know you know this already, that you are a powerful, powerful creatrix, and that being in connection with other powerful creatrixes, I'm sure you know, wherever two or more are gathered, like amazing things happen. And I think witch, and then it's like when you think of associations, I'm like, ooh, spells. And then I think of casting spells with your words, and being mindful of your speech and what you're wanting to create, and affirming, being mindful and being sacred with how we use our tongue to create the life and business that we desire. So I honor you. The goddess, queen, witch in me honors the goddess, witch, queen in you.
That is so beautiful. Thank you. And I love that, our words casting spells. So being mindful of that. Such important reminder.
And I do have a free gift. Yes. It was not the gift that I was thinking of, but since I brought up the meditation.
Yes.
And now I'm like, wow, do I know the link by heart?
Client Creation Queen Meditation. Well, that's okay. I'll just put it below the video.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I will share the link with you. So it's a Client Creation Queen meditation. It's about 10 minutes. And I really love it. There's some beautiful music, and it's really just about connecting with your inner queen and your creative power. I hope that you enjoy it, and feel free to let me know how it is for you after tuning in.
Gorgeous. Thank you so much. And I will put all the links of how people can connect with you and your amazing work. And the link to your free gift as well, to reclaim your crown and your queen and your witchiness, and inviting them all out to play.
Woman. Thank you so much, Emer. It was such a pleasure to connect with you.
Yeah, likewise. And let's do this again.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And to everyone watching, we will see you again soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye for now. Bye. Witches, we are rising, rising, rising. Witches, we are rising in the 21st century. Thank you for inviting your witch out to play today.